Scott Agnes was replying to someone else's comment who said, "Just can't wait until CeCe is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi." And then Scott Agnes replied and he said, "Have patience, at least several more weeks."
The hype was supposed to be unstoppable. Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom rewriting the record books, paired with Aaliyah Boston, a generational frontcourt talent. Add in a young core, momentum from packed arenas, and a fan base that seemed to grow by the day, and the Indiana Fever were suddenly the team everyone thought could leap from lottery struggles to playoff glory. But what if I told you the reality is very different? That instead of surging toward a title chase, the Fever are staring down something much darker, missing the playoffs altogether, and not by a razor-thin margin, but by a wide, sobering gap. That's forcing fans and analysts to confront a question no one wanted to ask this early. Is Indiana built for real contention or just for headlines? Because beneath the flashy highlights and sold-out crowds lies a team crumbling under pressure, a defense giving up buckets like clockwork, a roster still struggling to gel, and a coaching staff facing more questions than answers.
No return to practice. She's been able to get a little bit more in her full court running, with her all of her body weight. It's really building up from doing minimal to then building some endurance. To do longer periods of time. She's been able to do a little bit more on the court in terms of how she moves, but not into practice yet.
The Fever's struggles aren't just about bad luck or tough breaks. They reveal cracks in the foundation of a franchise trying to skip steps on the road to success. And here's where it gets even messier. Every game Clark plays is under the brightest spotlight women's basketball has ever seen. That means every turnover, every defensive lapse, every late game collapse becomes not just a loss, but a headline. Suddenly, what was supposed to be a dream season feels more like a slow-motion car crash. Stick with me, because we're breaking down how the Fever's playoff hopes are slipping away, why the numbers are uglier than you think, and what this means for Caitlin Clark's first year in the league. But first, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're covering the stories other outlets gloss over, diving deep into the drama and asking the questions that fans really want answered. The first sign of trouble? Defense, or more accurately, the complete lack of it.
So I remember I had my post all drafted up, and then I just went to the range to hit golf balls, and I just posted it, and then I kind of put my phone down, and obviously it blew up and whatever.
The Indiana Fever have been giving up points like a leaky faucet, steady, constant, and impossible to ignore, while other top teams like the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces suffocate opponents with ball pressure and rotations. Indiana's defense looks more like an open invitation. Guards are blowing by at will. Forwards are feasting in the paint. And when opponents really need a bucket, they're getting it because the Fever's schemes aren't holding up. Now, defense has always been the hardest part for a young team to figure out. It requires chemistry, communication, and trust. Things that don't develop overnight. But here's the problem. Indiana doesn't have the luxury of time. Caitlin Clark's presence has accelerated expectations. Fans aren't saying give it 3 years. They're saying why aren't we competing now? And it's not just the eye test.
On top of all of that, now they find out that she has suffered another injury while she is in her ramping up process to try to get back on the court. Now, the strangest thing about all of this was the reporting of this particular injury.
The stats paint a brutal picture. Indiana's defensive efficiency is sitting near the bottom of the league. Their opponents aren't just scoring, they're scoring efficiently, meaning the Fever are getting out-executed possession after possession. That's not about talent gaps, that's about structure and discipline. Which leads to the next tough question. Is head coach Christy Sides in over her head? Sides is respected, sure, but the jump from rebuilding patience to playoff urgency is massive, and so far her system hasn't adjusted. The lineups feel scattered, the rotations lack consistency, and instead of building a defensive identity, the Fever look like they're relying on Clark's offense to outscore their problems. Spoiler alert, that doesn't work in the WNBA. And when you zoom out, it's not just about defense, it's about a team identity that feels unfinished.
Mia Wachtel with the San Francisco Chronicle. Mabry's foul against you was upgraded to a flagrant 2. How are you feeling about that?
I think Steph talked about it plenty after the last game, and it is what it is. You move on, and my focus is just on tonight. Thanks.
Boston is dominant in the post, but still finding her role next to Clark. The shooters are streaky, the bench thin. Instead of a well-oiled machine, the Fever resemble puzzle pieces that don't quite fit. The end result: a team giving up too many points, depending too heavily on one rookie's offensive magic, and paying the price in the standings. But let's talk about that rookie, Caitlin Clark. Because here's where things get complicated. Clark's impact is undeniable. She's brought sold-out crowds, record-breaking viewership, and a level of media attention the WNBA has never seen. But all of that comes with weight. Every mistake is magnified, every misstep becomes a headline, and when your team is losing, those narratives pile up fast. Yes, she's putting up strong numbers, assists that thread the needle, deep threes that electrify crowds, and court vision that turns broken plays into highlights. But turnovers remain a glaring issue.
Dude, and it literally like pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What?
Sabrina? No.
No, there's really good, well-known people in our league. I'm not discrediting them. Like, we have a lot of badasses in our league.
Part of it is adjusting to the speed and size of the WNBA. Part of it is being asked to do too much too soon. Clark isn't just running the offense, she is the offense, and that's not sustainable. Here's the kicker. The Fever's roster isn't built to complement her yet. The floor spacing isn't ideal, the pick-and-roll chemistry with Boston is still inconsistent, and defenses are already loading up schemes specifically designed to force Clark into bad shots or turnovers. For every highlight reel play, there's a possession where she's trapped, doubled, or forced into a decision no rookie should have to make 30 times a game. But this isn't about whether Clark is good enough. She clearly is.
Walk me through your perspective on the flagrant foul, and what was the point you were trying to make to her?
It's just a good take foul, you know? If either Angel gets wide open 2 points or, we send him to the free throw line. Nothing malicious about it. It's just a take foul. Every basketball player knows that.
It's about whether Indiana is doing enough to protect her, both physically and structurally. Because let's be real, the number of hard fouls she's absorbed already this season isn't normal. The league may talk about protecting stars, but Clark's nightly treatment suggests otherwise. And if the Fever keep leaning on her to bail them out without fixing their defensive or structural issues, the burnout risk is real. So while the media focuses on the spectacle, the sellouts, the rivalries, the highlight reels,
reply where he was replying to someone and basically said, like, you have to trust me or just trust me. It's up to viewer discretion. It's up to the fans if they want to believe what he's saying, but several more weeks pretty much puts Caitlin Clark to coming back at the very end of the regular season.
The bigger story is this. Clark is being asked to carry a franchise that isn't ready for the weight. And if Indiana doesn't figure it out fast, that weight might crush their playoff hopes long before Clark gets the chance to flourish. Now, here's the part fans don't want to hear. This isn't just a growing pains year, it's a warning sign. Because when you look at championship teams in the WNBA, the Aces, the Liberty, the Storm, they all built a foundation before expectations skyrocketed. The Fever, meanwhile, are skipping steps. They've jumped from rebuilding straight into win now, and the cracks are showing. Let's talk culture. Winning teams don't just have stars. They have role players who buy into specific jobs, defensive anchors who take pride in doing the dirty work, and leaders who set the tone. Does Indiana have that? Not consistently. Sophie Cunningham brings energy. Kelsey Mitchell can be a spark. But the roles feel undefined. And without those roles, the team's ceiling drops. It's also about depth. Indiana's bench production is among the weakest in the league. When Clark sits, the offense stalls. When Boston sits, the paint becomes wide open. That means every game feels like a tightrope walk. One bad stretch, one cold shooting night, and suddenly the Fever are buried. And then there's the elephant in the room. Pressure. When every game is a must-win in the eyes of fans and media, mistakes feel catastrophic. That's a tough environment for a young team. Instead of learning through trial and error, the Fever are living in a fishbowl. Every loss fuels the narrative that Clark's brilliance is being wasted. And here's the kicker. The WNBA isn't waiting around for Indiana to figure it out. Other teams are improving, tightening rotations, and peaking at the right time. The Fever? They're still searching for answers in mid-August. That's not how playoff pushes are made. If Indiana doesn't address its foundation now, defense, depth, roles, and culture, they risk not just missing this year's playoffs, but wasting the momentum of Clark's arrival. And in professional sports, momentum is everything. Lose it, and you may not get it back. So, what's next? The Indiana Fever's problems don't end with defense, fatigue, or chemistry. There's a much bigger elephant in the room that fans can't ignore anymore.
So I'm going to read to you guys a couple quotes from Chloe Peterson. She said, sources confirmed to me that Caitlin Clark suffered a very mild bone bruise in her left ankle on August 7th. Scott Agnes was the first to report this. Source also stresses that this tweaked ankle does not affect her return timeline.
The expectations that come with having Caitlin Clark on your roster. The Fever weren't just supposed to improve this year. They were sold to us as a team that would transform overnight. But the reality? Having Caitlin Clark doesn't automatically erase years of poor drafting, mismanagement, and a culture of losing. And now, the cracks are starting to show, not just on the court, but off it too. Every game, the cameras are locked on Clark. Every missed shot, every turnover, every time she looks frustrated, it becomes a viral clip within minutes. Imagine being her teammate. Imagine knowing that no matter what you do, whether you drop 20 points, lock down the opposing guard, or hustle until you collapse, nobody's talking about you. They're talking about her. It creates a strange, silent tension that's hard to ignore. Sure, everyone says the right things in interviews. We're behind Caitlin, or we believe in the process. But watch the body language on the court. Sometimes it feels like Clark is on an island, trying to drag this team forward while everyone else is just surviving. Now, here's the kicker. Clark herself is being held to an impossible standard. Fans expect her to be Steph Curry with a dash of Diana Taurasi and a sprinkle of Sue Bird, all in her rookie year. That's insane. She's 22 years old, facing grown women who've been dominating this league for a decade. Of course she's going to struggle, but the Fever's entire identity, tickets, merchandise, national TV games, has been built around her. So when the team collapses, it's not just a loss in the standings. It feels like a betrayal of the hype. And that's a dangerous spiral because disappointment spreads fast in sports. Let's also talk about the business side of this, because it's not just basketball, it's economics. The WNBA has poured marketing dollars into Clark's arrival. She's become the face of the league overnight. ESPN wants her games, Nike wants her signature shoes, the Fever wants sold-out arenas.
Like, hell yeah to that. I'm all for that. But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as
You guys played at Iowa.
That's a lot of weight on one player's shoulders, and while Clark has handled it with more grace than most could ever dream of, she's human. You can see it in the way she carries herself after a tough loss. It's the look of someone trying to hold an entire franchise together while still figuring out who she is at this level. Meanwhile, opponents are licking their chops. Every team in the league knows that if you beat Caitlin Clark, you're going viral. It's not just about the win. It's about the headlines. So what happens? Night after night, she's targeted. Full court pressure, double teams, physical defense that toes the line between hard and dirty. And while she fights through it, the toll adds up. And without consistent help from her teammates, those battles often feel like uphill climbs. But here's the twist. The Fever's struggles aren't just exposing their flaws, they're forcing the league itself to confront something bigger. Can one star really carry an entire brand? Because right now, it feels like Clark's brilliance is being wasted. She can't develop properly in a system that doesn't protect her, doesn't maximize her, and doesn't give her enough support. It's like planting a flower in concrete. Sure, it might grow, but it'll never bloom the way it should. And yet, here's where things get really intriguing. As bad as the Fever look today, as chaotic as the season feels, this kind of pain might be exactly what Clark and this franchise need. Pressure either breaks you or makes you unshakable. The Fever are being forged in fire right now. And while fans are frustrated, disappointed, even angry, this storm could set the stage for something greater down the line. The real question isn't whether they'll survive this season. The real question is whether the Fever and Clark can turn this chaos into the foundation of something unstoppable. Because if they can't, the headlines will only get louder, and the whispers about wasted potential will become roars. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of fan who doesn't just follow the highlight reels. You want the truth behind the headlines. So here's your move. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your take on whether Indiana can salvage this season, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because the next chapter in this story is guaranteed to be just as dramatic, and you'll want to be here when it breaks.